everybody, and welcome to Plaid Stallion's Toy Ventures. I am Brian, your host. I'm back from the gutter, and I brought stuff with me, particularly stuff that I had as a kid. I always appreciate the episodes where I either A, buy a toy I always wanted as a kid but never had, or track down a toy I had, an old friend, if you will, and reevaluate it as an adult. And today's subject is the Remco officially licensed Batman utility belt. And I had one of these in the 1970s and probably lasted a whole afternoon at my grandparents' house. But what an afternoon. I don't think I'm alone in this. I think a lot of us had these toys and kind of forget that we even had them, because the toys from Azrak Hamway, the owner of Remco, they're always fun, but maybe not built to last. And we'll get into this here. So before I reunite with this old chum, Teehee, I thought I would give a little bit of a backstory, because while Remco dominated the 1970s with this concept, and trust me, they brought it to remarkable highs and hilarious lows during that period. However, this is not really a new idea. Now, this February would mark the 60th anniversary of the launch of the action figure, which did dynamically change the boys' toy market. Now, prior to that, I would say one of the biggest categories, aside from trucks and cars and that sort of thing, would be role play items. During the 1940s, 50s, and even 60s, boys usually played either cowboys and Indians or army, both of which involved shooting people, and yeah, I did some of that as a kid. I'm no stranger to it. If you pick up any wish book from the 1960s, you will find pages of role play items. And while the subject matter has changed, it's never going to go away. You will find it at toy stores to this day, and you always will. Make-believe is wonderful. However, more important to our story is the first usage of the Batman utility belt was not by Remco, it was by a rival, Ideal Toys, in 1967. Cashing in on the popularity of the wonderful Adam West Batman series, Ideal Toys made what I would consider a Rolls-Royce of toys. I mean, I did not grow up in the 60s, and I did not have this toy as a child. It's just hard to deny how great this toy looks. I mean, every time I look at it, I just think, wow, that's cool. I truly believe a fantastic toy, a great concept, is one that wakes up your inner child. And this one definitely does that. However, Ideal did drop that toy pretty quickly after the Adam West series went off the air, and Batman was largely considered a fad. It wouldn't be until the 1970s, thanks to, syndication of all these superhero programs, that there would be a resurgence in superheroes, and the first major company to take that plunge was Mego, but however, their runaway success with properties was not lost on their across-the-hall neighbor, Azrak Hamway, who had in 1973 purchased the defunct Remco company's name and relaunched it in 1975. And while their first catalog is meager, one of the most interesting items in it was the newly acquired Star Trek license and the Remco Star Trek utility belt. The Star Trek utility belt was an absolute smash in 1975, and thanks to Remco already dealing with most major licensing companies on the AHI rack toy side, they followed up in 1976 with two new designs, the new show Space 1999 and the most logical of the series, Batman. While Star Trek sold very well, and I'm assuming Space 1999 did while it was on the air, I do not think it's controversial to say that Batman was the best seller in this entire range. It lasted the longest, it was in every assortment, and it just made perfect sense. Batman is an evergreen. So by 1977, Remco has sussed out that they can mainly label slap these kits together using a lot of the same tooling, adding things and taking things away, And you'll see that with the addition of the Amazing Spider-Man license, another banger of a seller for Remco, and even Mickey Mouse, which seems strange, but hey, they had the Disney license. However, by the late 1970s, the concept might be getting a little stretched out. It doesn't always make perfect sense to capitalize on a popular character by giving him a utility belt. Case in point, Superman, who has very little need of gadgets. They somehow got that. I'll give it a pass. Then you've got Captain America, where you just don't understand why there isn't some sort of attempt to do the shield. While the Wonder Woman set was like a massive seller and made so much sense, like every girl on my block owned this, it represents a high, a zenith, if you will, next to the incredible low of the Incredible Hulk utility belt. A character that doesn't even have shoes and is often depicted as having a rope or some sort of toaster cord for a belt, has an elaborate utility belt. I assume they meant this was for Bruce Banner. I'm not totally sure what to say there, but I can tell you this. I'm not sure if anyone ever bought one of these. There was also a Buck Rogers set that seems to utilize some Star Trek tooling there. I don't know how well this one sold, but around that time, Remco had some serious role-play item competition from HG Toys, who would really take that mantle into the 1980s. And by 1980, Remco was down to 3 designs: the aforementioned Hulk, Spider-Man utility belt, and Batman. And the only thing that really sets these apart is the fact that Remco often changed the packaging on these things. Another curious item in the AHI Remco world is this Madison Imports Shadow utility belt. That was the subject of our very first episode of Toy Ventures. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. I personally have never been able to establish if Madison Imports had a relationship with Remco AHI, or if they simply dealt with their factories, which was called Soma. Even after all these years, I'm not sure if these toys came out of the front door or the back door. I hope I get clarity someday. So with the history lesson out of the way, let's talk about what you got for your $2.99 or less. The first thing I want to point out is the awesome vac metallized Batman belt buckle attached to what I believe is just another variation of the Star Trek belt. This is the kind of thing you will find in an old toy lot or something like that and just wonder where it comes from. Now for the Bat walkie-talkie, which was canon, Remco tooled up a very appropriate kind of 66 Batman looking communicator, complete with little bat ears and antenna. And trust me, they got really, really good mileage out of this tooling. Everything has bat ears, every set. There's this weird temptation to give Batman a gun. I mean, even Ideal did it. But the Bat Clicker Gun, which just describes itself as Bat Clicker Gun, I don't know, I guess it's supposed to be the Bat Laser or something like that, but it's really just, I think, someone else's toy that they slapped the Bat logo on. The Bat Grappler is just basically a bunch of rope with a little hook on the end. I just noticed the hook on mine is broken, but it wasn't bat-shaped or anything specific like that. It was more like just one of those burglar ropes. I do not think this would have supported my weight in 1976, and I'm super positive it won't do the trick now. The best way to describe the Bat Cuffs is almost like a lower quality rack toy. Like, most of us had adventures with rack toy handcuffs at one point in our lives, and these are much cheaper and much more fragile. The last iteration of this toy would see the removal of the rope and grappling hook and replaced with a toy watch, secret decoder glasses to help you translate the secret messages on the back. However, I believe the utility belt line was phased out in 1982 as Remco began to really focus on action figures. Hey everyone, just a quick reminder, if you like this channel and what I do, please consider checking out my shop. I have 11 issues of Toy Ventures magazine available, as well as 2 books, multiple action figures, and a series of collector pins. I'll put the link to the shop in the description, and I thank you for considering it. It's strange that I know I had this toy, but I can't remember when. And I can't remember if I had the Spider-Man one or not. That's probably because they just really weren't around for a very long time. To be fair, I think maybe whatever I had, the stickers fell off of it, and I forgot where it came from. But that is sort of a beautiful thing, and I'm glad to have this old friend back in the house for a price I could afford. One of the things I really love about the box is the Carmen Infantino artwork on it, which I recognized from being also on the back of the Mego Comic Action Heroes cards, and I burned a hole through this card back as a kid. Ideal Toys was really an innovator when it comes to superhero role play, and I think if you look at any toy store now, you will find these kind of items. I wonder if we've ever gone a year without a kid's Batman utility belt. It seems rather commonplace and ordinary now, but there was a time when this was a newfangled thing. Did you have any of the Remco utility belts? If so, which one, and what was your journey on it? Did you enjoy it, or did it fall apart? Let me know in the comments below or in our Facebook group, Pod Stallions, where we talk about important, hard-hitting subjects like this. That's all the time I have for this week. I will be returning with a new podcast next week. Thank you very much for sitting all the way through this video if you have. If you're new to the channel, please consider hitting like and subscribe. This is what we do. If you're not new, please consider hitting like and share. I'd really appreciate it. So, until next time, my friends, be well and talk toys, not other people. Cheers.